Hello, and thank you so much for joining this episode of the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. You know, we love to help you to just truly thrive in your relationships here. And I'm so thankful you joined for this episode where we talk about finding your relationship purpose. And we're going to go type by type as we do that, which makes me very thankful because we're also coming up on the actual anniversary of the book right behind me if you're watching on YouTube. But this is my book that I wrote last year, came out October 4th, 2023. Whenever you're listening, we're almost to the day of when the book came out. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to help you to discover your light, the ways you shine, the way you shine together. And today we're really focusing on that as we carve out purposes for you if you've just lost your way, right? Like some of you read this book and you're a little fuzzy on, wait, what did we discover? What are the ways we shine? And others of you haven't read the book yet and just are here as a first time listener or new this year. And I'm really excited to walk this journey with you too, because as you might know, it's really great to find each other and get all those honeymoon feels. But what's even better is to get solidified together, to allow desires to grow, of course, but also to truly find purpose together. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we do that, a couple of announcements. One is that we are praying for those who were affected by Hurricane Helene. I am so sorry for anybody who has been walking that journey. And I am really thinking about you and also I was very thankful we were able to host our friends who were staying on Anna Maria Island during that time. And I really hope that you continue to reach out and help if you're able with those struggling. And I hope that we can all, as a world, as a community, continue to look out for areas that are suffering. And I was just reading the Bible this morning, and it was a reminder to look out for even strangers. And so I often think of friends and family, but I hope that we can all be mindful of the people we don't know that are struggling right now. And so just take a moment and a pause to reflect and to think about that if you can as we get started today. Thank you so much for doing that with me. And I really appreciate you trying to find purposes, even perhaps in this moment when so many, especially in the mountain and Appalachia regions. And of course, we've had some people in Florida also really struggling. So just thinking about ways you could uniquely perhaps help might be something in the back of your mind as we talk about the purposes for each type today. Um, Also, for those who are just looking to win our contest that we have going on through next Monday, you can win a copy of my book, The Enneagram in Marriage, Your Guide to Thriving Together in Your Unique Pairing. If you sign up to leave a review, just leave a book review if you've read it, or a podcast review on Apple if you're here, and screenshot it to us. Send it back to us at enneagramandmarriage@gmail.com by Monday, and you will be entered to win a copy of my book, a glow guide, which is my pairing guides, a copy, actually two copies of your deeper dive guides, and also a Supper Sleuth mystery dinner game. And that is so much fun because we love to also produce games for couples and individuals and singles to play with their friends and family around this time of year. It's so much fun to play in the fall. In fact, we have a coupon over at suppersleuth.com for that also. It's 25% off your whole cart for the code Mystery Fun. So I will put that in the show notes too. But that's a fun contest that we have going on where you can win a game, all of these great resources for your pairing, my book signed. And that's just as a thank you. We are so thankful you're out there loving and sharing. And just many of you already left reviews. So if that was you and you already left the review, just screenshot it and show it to us and you're entered. So yay. And this is my purpose, right? I know my purpose is to help couples to thrive. And so I love to be in that space. I also love celebrating my family, of course, and allowing myself to, find your purposes out there with my clients. But mine is helping couples. So yay. Thank you for celebrating that with me as we do that right here, even now. So once again, when we think about celebrating purpose, again, we come from that space of first having come together, realizing that we had a certain desire for each other. We had a certain appreciation, and probably there was an even sort of I give this, you give that. There was a bit of an opposites attract going when you found one another. And it was just new. And that's part of the sexual instinct, introducing the novel, the new. And so you were drawing each other with all these differences, genetically, physically, you name it. And then you also were attracting each other as you got closer and maybe obviously intimacy as well. But now you have this opportunity before you. And that is as you take care of yourself and each other, you have a chance to find a relationship purpose outside of just yourselves. And as you might have heard me talking about before, one of the most important researchers parallels what I've come to learn about the Enneagram instincts, which is after you get your self pres and then you get your merging with your sexual instinct, your social instinct is a really great place to serve from that point. Abraham Maslow would say it's at the top of the hierarchy of needs to not only self actualize so that you can get self care, but to also serve others. And then Eric Erickson's work would say that what we don't want to do is become stagnant in this season of life. Instead, we want to give. So, all of these systems, we're all going to have it done in different ways, but we all come back to that same space, which is we really do need to serve and to do something meaningful if we're going to have a satisfying life. And so that is, of course, also that some days are still going to be hard, but even to try to have a truly and deeply satisfying life that you are interested in and passionate about, and to bring that to your spouse again and again, to talk it through, and some of your dreams and goals to be done together in this way. This is really where your true thriving comes in, not just surviving, not just like, okay, we're each getting our self care, so we're surviving, but truly thriving means we're giving also. So, I'm going to talk to you now about how each type can do it. And then we'll finish up with just helping you to come up with some ways for you to combine together with your marriage, because so many of us can track parallel lines because we can find our personal purposes and then we can forget to find some of these purposes together. So, that's really our full glow up, is to find those purposes together. And of course, read my book if you haven't yet. If you're just like, I need an even deeper dive on the types and we're in some sticky situations with our two types together, I have many treatment plans for every single one of the 45 pairings in my book as well. But let's start off with type 9 in this episode, because sometimes I hear from the nines who say, we don't want to wait all the way to the end. So we're going to start with our nines today. And nines who are seeking relationship purpose, the first thing that's helpful for you to do is to make sure that you are allowing yourself a chance to truly process what's happening for you in terms of, do you even know what your purpose is at all? And if you don't, just to follow up on Monday's episode, I loved how we were able to learn from Lance Howard when he said, write down 100 things that you want to do one day as a nine, and just don't even expect other people are going to see it. But I'm going to even lessen that to 20 things. Just take 10 minutes to write down about 20 things you'd like to do. And the ones that seem like they could be loving and fun for others, like maybe you're like, ooh, I would like to buy somebody flowers, and they might not even, necessarily expect me to do that, but I'm going to do that. It's not their birthday. I just want to be a person who's kind of like that. I've always loved flowers, or I'm a person who would like to bake more and share that baking, or I would like to sing in my choir more. Whatever it is, allow yourself to think on things and just sit with them. And some of those 20 might not be things that ever get done or even shared, but a couple of them might help you to really start to foster what your purpose is. Another way Melody and I were starting to do that for her as a nine was the opposite approach of looking at lists of careers or hobbies or volunteer opportunities so that she could really see which one she doesn't want to do and start narrowing it down that way. So that will help you find purposes outside of yourself when you start just allowing yourself to process, what do I love doing? And what am I somewhat good at? Because if you can see, like, I'd love to bake, but I really am horrible at it, it would probably be very disheartening to do that. Unless you're like, I am so committed, I'm getting a private chef and I'm going to go so slowly. So that's okay too if you want to do that. But let's talk to eights now. Eights, those of you who are eights out there know that finding your purpose isn't all that hard. But to have the relational purpose for you often means that you really start to look at what you're good at and how much is reasonably able to be done in a day so that you don't have so much excess that you can't give to your family and friends. And I think that's so big for an eight because you have so many dreams that it's hard to even get them all done in 16 hours, much less, eight. And so it's so important for you to allow yourself to say, these purposes are very big and real, but I have a lifetime to get things done. So allowing yourself a chance to narrow down what has to be done today versus just trying to get it all done. And also making sure that you don't judge others who don't have as much energy as you or don't have the same gifts as you. That's a good purpose for you. Now, sevens, you have a struggle with purpose because sometimes you're so full of ideas that it's hard to come up with something to actually do. This frenzy of flight, if you will, just kind of gets us sevens going. And we think about so many things at once that it's hard to really focus sometimes and put some nails down and to say, this is the project I'm really centered in on. And this is the one that's going to be the one I focus on. And for me, even just knowing that I can choose just one project is so freeing because there's that sense of FOMO we have of I want to do a lot. And it's okay to also, like we said to eight, say, there's a lifetime ahead of me potentially to do more. Right now, I can only pick just a few things. What are the ones that will really keep me the most engaged and interested? And able to focus. And I do believe sevens can truly focus when they find something that interests them, even if you have to take it in short spurts like I do sometimes. I just turn on my Hobbit music, The Shire on YouTube, and I will sit for 5 minutes at a time. And then it usually turns to 10, 20, 15. Oh my gosh, I skipped that. You know what I meant. And I really like that. And I find a lot of joy in giving myself permission to start small with just a few minutes. But definitely make sure you remind yourself you can come back to more purposes as you really engage just a couple things and take deep breaths and self soothe so that you can really be present to those purposes. Now, sixes often love to have somebody working on a project with them. But what I find with sixes is it's so helpful to be able to say, when you're feeling anxious, distracting yourself by working on a project or artistry or volunteerism, it's so good for you. It really allows you to fully immerse in your intelligence and the wisdom that is absolutely central to being a six. And it gives you a chance to align your purposes, not just with troubleshooting, but to say, I'm going to also carry out these tasks that are going to help others in the world. And that is going to probably still have elements of troubleshooting for you. You maybe say, oh, I'm leading a Boy Scout troop. And in fact, I'm planning all the schedules and I'm really good at that. Or I'm doing something with my garden club and I am going to be the one who makes sure that we're all aligned in our list of which botany options we have. And so I can just imagine your organizational skills really showing up no matter what you decide your purposes are. But I also want you to really reflect on the fact that your purpose will not come out if you're just worrying relationally. So, allowing yourself a little bit of space at the beginning and end of each day to say, I will give some time for reflection on what I'm concerned about, but I'm also allowing myself some time and space to just be present to giving and to purposes that allow myself to use my wisdom. Now, fives, you also have so much wisdom, and I know you have a lot of innovation and researching, and you are great at knowing how to dig deep for information. And so that is a great purpose to serve is to help others to get the information that you have. And of course, sometimes you're tenuous about where and how to share that, but I love for you to be brave and share it in spaces where you think it would be helpful and allow your purposes to be seen. Often fives say, I can't share until I have more information. I'm not an expert. But what you forget sometimes as a five is that a lot of people don't even have nearly the amount you have. So it's so important for you to still give from whatever you do have at least a little bit, and then tell people, I'll come back later with more if I can, but this is what I can offer you right now. And that just feels good because people appreciate you and your research, and often you've inspired them. Just knowing you're there for them gives them the courage. I know that's how I feel when I get a little bit of assistance from a five, and you get to feel like you're in your purpose. So make sure you allow that. Make sure you allow some relational purpose too by doing some of this for your partner, not just for other people. Sometimes in our relationships, we can allow ourselves to stir away from what's kind of boring or like every day and just, I hear that even from lots of different personality types who are like, my partner's always helping other people and not me. So make sure you also allow yourself to do some relationship purposing as well. What would your spouse really? Now, type fours, you're so good at bringing purposes to your friends, family in terms of compassion and just showing them that you're there for them in the hard days and you want to be there in the hard days. But they also want to hear you in the joy, celebrate them. And I think a lot of your purposes are both going to the depths and bringing the light. And people often just talk about fours in the depths, but I want you to know I truly see your purpose as just the way you listen, the way you care. That brings so much light into the world. So find ways to bring your depths, but also to bring your light. And I think that you'll be in a really good way. And I think that if you're doing inhibited, as sometimes fours are, then allow yourself to come through with something that can help you to have to get out. Like maybe you just say, I'm setting an appointment with a friend I can cancel on, or I have to make sure I hit my workout class, or I have to pay for it. Whatever it is, I hope that as a four, you'll allow yourself the doing space so that you can get out there and go and truly shine in the world with that bright light of hope that you really offer people that are just needing encouragement or joy, or as we said, sometimes just a listening ear and going to the depths, which will help them to later emerge with joy. So thank you for all you do. And that is a beautiful purpose that you share in the world. Now, type threes, a lot of the time you're so purposed, right? That you have so many people you're helping and you're shining so big in the world that, of course, I'm going to remind you, make sure you're doing that in your marriage as well. Make sure you're allowing your partner to be also dazzled by your amazing help. This is you as a heart type at your best. And I also want you to remember to align yourself with work that you're passionate about because often you know what's really needed in a culture and so there's this tendency of threes to just go for what the culture needs. But I love for you to remember, what do you love? What are you so enthralled by? Because you, as a three, are probably so multi talented that it's going to be helpful to narrow in as soon as possible on what you actually enjoy. That also is purposeful. And remember, just like I said to eights, your partner doesn't have all the same gifts as you. So make sure you're not so hard on them for the differing gifts they have and appreciating that and stopping instead of future pacing and going so fast to just look at them and see what they have to offer and be appreciative. Now, twos, often you're so purposeful in the ways that you're giving that it feels like it's a very natural posture for you to just be in that space of loving and sharing and helping. And so I want to allow you to remember that what's going to be helpful in terms of purposeful giving is to, of course, ask the infamous question, what is mine to do today, that Suzanne Stabile has challenged us all on, but it's definitely worth repeating because there may be things that are so purposeful, but they're for somebody else's purpose because you're too full. And then you can really focus well on the things that are yours to do. And you can allow yourself to notice which of these will help my family also, because you're probably so needed in the community, but that community will be there even when your kids are older to a degree. And so knowing I can say yes to my community, but also some no's so that I can say a few more yeses at home so that I don't worry my kids, my spouse, and miss each other and miss all the desires that we could be fulfilling for each other too. Now, as for our ones can, like I said, to threes and eights also be in that space of looking hard for their partner to contribute the same amount. And so I want to get away from sameness of our gifts. We have all these varied gifts, all these varied issues that make us better and worse on any given day, whether it be health and fitness issues or hormonal issues or work issues or weather bothering our allergies. There are so many factors that make it very difficult to judge another person accurately on what they're giving and doing and what versus what you're giving and doing. So make sure you try to give yourself a chance to show some grace to yourself so that you can show some grace to others. And that could look like for you saying, okay, I'm finding my purpose. I'm doing my purpose. I'm so good at ordering things and noticing errors. And I do that. And yet I'm going to remind myself that's not my partner's gift. This is my gift. And so I may be able to help improve them in that, but this is probably not, unless I married somebody just like me, this is probably not going to be their actual gift. So I can really allow myself to say, they're not going to be that picky on me for this. I can relax my inner critic a bit and also relax my inner critic on them so that I'm not in a space of missing out on joy in my purpose and instead just doing it sort of as a Martha, if you're familiar with the biblical analogy, but just, doing it as a person who's like, I have to. And instead coming back with a nice deep breath. If you're a one, take one with me, even right now, just I get to do this. I'm good at this and I'm going to keep sharing my gifts. And if you're not aligned right now with what your gifts are and what you love doing, then asking yourself, how can you even plan for that? Even just 5 more minutes a day, just really allowing yourself to do that. I know Wes has built so many things as a one just for a few minutes a day. And when he recently has had his collarbone accident and surgery and all that and his ribs, it really helped him to work on a website, to just build it up. And it was a really great tinkering project. And now he's just a few weeks away from even just wearing the sling, and he'll start physical therapy soon. And he's uncomfortable sometimes, but he's fine now. Whereas like the first day he was like, "Oh, it hurts to sneeze and I can't lay down." And now he's like, "Okay, you can give our friend her special chair back." And there's, been a lot of fun and he's done a lot of interesting things. And so he's in a new place, but it was helpful to even just mitigate expectations on himself and his purposes when he was in a hard spot. So just a reminder to you ones and really to all of us that when we are shaken up by a hurricane, by an illness, by an accident, by anything in our lives, our purposes are going to need to go back down to that self-preserving rung. And that's just a message for all as we close today, is to know that when we're ascending the mountain, if you will, of the Maslowian architecture, to say, "Ooh, I'm headed up and I'm doing these amazing things in this world." But then I fall. You have to realize that's part of life. That happens day to day for all of us, where we just have the best day. And then we just almost like in The Family Man, where Nicolas Cage is trying to stay up and not go back to sleep, or Big with Tom Hanks. And it's like you just see yourself in those analogies when you're like, I just want to hang on to this moment. And then you wake up the next day, you have a headache, or, you're hormonal, or your spouse is mean, or you have to go to work and you had the day off before. And all these things can just mash up with you in such difficult ways. And I just want to remind you that's totally normal. You can't be at the top pinnacle all the time. So just make sure that you keep trying to find purpose day to day. And that's really my last tip for you as a couple also, is we've talked about ways each of you can just be a bit more purposeful today with your own gifts type by type, but just asking yourself, what do me and my spouse particularly contribute together? That's beautiful too, because maybe one of you is an animal lover and one of you is great administratively. And then you guys decide to spend a little bit of time volunteering together at an animal shelter, where one of you helps a little bit with the books and one of you helps a little bit with the pets. Or you decide that you guys are really gifted with running, and yet one of you is maybe even somebody who would be really good at organizing a fun run for a community event. And I think that these are just two examples of so many. And others of you are so introverted that, as I've talked to some of my introverted couples recently, their purposes together have been giving in secret and just enjoying that together from a very, stand back sort of way that isn't going to conflate them into other for their giving because nobody even knows it was them, but they had so much joy in the giving and they realized that they were healthier for the giving and the purpose. So I would love for you, just before we head into holidays, to talk with your partner. Maybe it's about giving to the hurricane. Maybe it's about giving to somebody who has just a need in your community. But again, think of not just friends and family, but also those strangers that you don't know who you can give to. And make sure that you're holding some healthy boundaries around these purposes so that when you also need help yourself, you can come back to self pres. You can come back to your sexual instinct when you're feeling like, man, we're just running on parallel lines, helping each other. Keep your date nights weekly. We had such a fun one with friends this weekend, and I'm so grateful for you here. So, this was a lot for our mini episode. Take one thing today that you're going to be working on, and also make sure that you stay safe if you are in any hurricane zones. And I will be thinking of you. Don't forget the contest if you want to win a signed copy, glow guide. Don't forget the games over at suppersluice.com if you want to have a fun fall party. And everything is in the show notes. Okay, bye bye.